Welcome again to Pinot with Pag and Panettieri. Brought to you by the folks at SolarWinds MSP. We discuss the critical role that you play in this industry and where MSPs are going next to succeed. Got a question for us? Post it in the comments area and we'll cover it in a future edition. John, great to see you again.
Hey, Joe. Nice to see you again. Like the background.
Yeah, you know what? The background is treating me well. We've had some nice weather here on Long Island in October, so I figured I'd do this from outside. So, you know, first time you or the last time you and I spoke in this podcast series, we talked about the MSPs and navigating COVID and how overwhelmingly well they've been performing, which is great news. And that continues, I think, overall. Of course, there's challenges in the market, but overall, the MSPs are performing quite well. But my first question, I really wanted to focus on SolarWinds MSP itself. Since the time we spoke, you've actually, or SolarWinds proper, announced that the company may spin out SolarWinds MSP. Any update there? Is that actually going to happen, or is it still a question mark? Where are you in the process?
Yeah, sure. So one, if you don't mind, I just wouldn't hit the MSP part a little bit. Yeah, we're seeing the same thing that you're seeing. We're seeing the MSPs continue to rise up and meet their challenge. We're talking to MSPs daily. I'm on the phone with a lot of our MSPs, and you're right. I think the sentiment's exactly right there. They've weathered that initial storm, and now they're just looking to continue on their path and getting their customers back to help along with their digital transformation. So I'd say by and large, you're right. I think by and large, while I don't want to be tone deaf and not say some parts of the industry have taken it a little bit more, but by and large, I'm really seeing that the community and the industry is quite healthy and thriving, and looking to really continue on their growth path. So sure, absolutely agree. Yeah, interesting times. A lot's happened since the last time we got together and when we were sharing a couple of bottles of wine. We announced to the world that we are exploring the spin out, and we're calling it with like explore with a capital E. And what that means really, Joe, is we're looking at the practical path on how to do it and what that means for the business. And the thesis for doing that is really straightforward. We believe that by taking these two businesses that are actually quite successful in their own right and separating them so that both businesses can focus on their customer base and their investment thesis as independent businesses, that they will do better, and they will do better. And I believe we will do better for all of our stakeholders. And by stakeholders, I mean me and my team and my employees for sure, but and our shareholders. But I also mean for our partners. What this will allow us to do is really focus and prioritize on our investment thesis for our partners. So.
Okay. So the question I've already asked you on this, you already answered it for me a few months ago when the news first broke. But for those who missed the initial news, I think it's a very important question to restate. Sometimes when companies spin out, you see a whole new management team arrive, and a new approach to business. For the MSPs that are watching and listening and learning about this news, should they expect a completely new management team, or is it the team they already are working with?
No, it's absolutely going to be a lot of the same faces that my partners have had the pleasure of growing with side by side. We always say we grow side by side with our partners, so it'll be a lot of the same faces that they've been used to for the last 10 years. Actually, folks like Frank Coletti, Mike Cullen, David Weeks, and we also augmented our head of customer success, Leo Sanchez, was with me back in Logic nowadays. We've added Matt Turner from the SolarWinds group. And as part of this, we will look to augment with some of that leadership. So that leadership that we've known that have that MSP domain, but we will bring in some additional leaders. Part of it's just a requirement. As we've now become a standalone company, we'll need a general counsel as an example, right? So we'll look to augment and bring on and continue on bringing that level of leadership that our partners have come accustomed to over the last 10, 15 years or so.
Got it. And then a final question on this topic. And I know timelines can be fluid; they can move forward and back. but I do wonder for the MSPs that are watching, are they just going to wake up one morning and this happens, or is there a longer term sort of process that's in place with a general goal or date for it to potentially happen?
Yeah, look, we call it exploring because it's almost similar taking for your kids for a walk in that forest behind you, right? You're expecting to come out of it with the expectation of being a standalone company, but you're just not sure when. Honestly, Joe, there's a lot of things that are out of our control, macro impacts, macro environment type of bits, and then some things that are in our control. That we are not going to jeopardize the quality of service that we have for our partners. So we want to make sure that our business is completely ready, that my team is completely ready, that our partners are completely ready. It's not going to be a light switch or a surprise. We will message to our partners, but what they should know and should be pretty quite confident on is that we're not going to push this at a pace that's uncomfortable for neither us nor them. Our number one priority is to maintain the transparency with them and that relationship with our partners to continue on their growth trajectory. And that will be the thing that actually sets our pace for us.
All right, John, thanks for the background and the update on the potential spin out. Let's move forward and to our latest wine samples. The selection today, I think, is Decoy and Migration. Do I have that right?
Yeah, sure. After our first podcast, and by the way, salute. After our first podcast, I was surprised at the number of questions and comments, but more so at the number of questions and comments about the wine that we were drinking, Joe. So I wanted to be a little bit mindful. Yeah, so Migration and Decoy, look, to be frank, I liked the names. And for me, they spoke to me from the names and the messaging really here. Migration. So our partners, along with us, we're here to help shepherd this migration or transformation, this digital transformation for our small, medium enterprises. And so that's what migration is about. It's helping our partners and having make sure that our partners are helping their customers on this digital transformation that they're doing. And Decoy actually kind of had a little bit of more of a deeper meaning as you go through the transformation that we're all going through. It's also important for our partners as well as for me and my team to make sure that we stay true to what made us great, and not fall for the decoys that might be out there. We all have our North Star as to what we're there for from a business. Every business is different. We all have our North Star. And my message to the partners out there is don't get distracted. Don't fall for those decoys and stay true to what you are in your business plan for sure. So yeah, I have the Migration open right now, and that's what's in my glass right here. So again, cheers.
Fantastic.
Hey, did I hear wine?
Oh boy.
What are you two drinking?
Oh, it's the wine snob, Joe. Now we're in trouble.
Mike Cullen, I got to tell you, it's great to see you. Some of my favorite memories in this industry are being on the road at MSP conferences and events, and frankly, having a glass of wine, or I won't say bottles, I'll just say having a glass of wine with you. Have you been able to continue that tradition as we all navigate COVID? What's up with you, Mike?
Well, not the same way that we used to, Joe. Without the travel, it doesn't have the same. Do have a fairly good wine collection. And your next question would be, is it documented? No, because with my wife, it goes too quickly. I have brought along something special today. And John, you should remember this wine.
Oh, this looks familiar. This is bringing me over across the pond in Europe, I think, Mike.
Yeah, a little restaurant in Amsterdam where the owner was trying to load us up with his most expensive bottle of wine. Now, I'm not going to open this like you two boozers. I've got work to do, but I do promise you both that I will save this till the next time we can get together and have a nice bottle of wine.
Mike, that's quite an impressive wine cellar you have there.
Isn't it?
Now, Mike, I only have one follow-up question on that bottle of wine. Is there a particular meal that we should enjoy that with?
Well, this one's from a really specific restaurant, Joe, and it is one of the most unique dishes that they serve there that I've ever had, where they make the pasta in a round of Parmigiana, where so they put the pasta in, the sauce, they flambe it, the cheese melts into the pasta, and then they serve it. One of the best dishes I've ever had in my entire life.
Yeah, Joe, you would have loved it. We're in the Netherlands, and but the entire staff was from Italy, and I actually never seen a dish prepared this way. They came out with the hot pasta right in this big wheel of Parmesan cheese, and like Mike said, they got that going in there, and it was, I agree, it was one of the more memorable meals that we've had together for sure.
Oh, it's awesome. And you're making me miss Italy. So I'm not a world traveler, really. I'm mostly a US traveler, but with my family, we were very, very fortunate. Right before COVID happened, we actually were in Parma, Italy, and we had some fantastic meals there. So Mike, you are making my mouth water.
You know what? It's not in Italy, but it's as good as many of the meals I've had in Italy.
Fantastic. So, Mike, before you came on, we were talking a bit about MSPs continuing to execute in the market and navigate COVID in the business world, obviously. And obviously, before we even talk about business, we're always concerned about the well-being of our partners and our viewers. So we hope everyone's doing well out there. On the business front, though, are you seeing any particular trends that have emerged more recently?
We see the businesses continuing to thrive. We see good MSPs continue to put good percentages of revenue to their bottom line, which I think is really good. So overall, the industry is very enthusiastic.
Okay, so the MSPs, for the most part, continue to execute. We know in certain verticals, they're going to have to really work overtime. But John, from your vantage point, jumping back to you, what are you doing to keep SolarWinds MSP and your team focused?
Yeah, it's a great question. I guess it comes up to that Decoy bottle a little bit, where hopefully along with our partners, we're using this fall season, this Q4, to start planning for 2021. And I always say that old expression, Joe, failing to plan is planning to fail. Mm-hmm. And so we use this October, November timeframe to focus in on our priorities and our goals for 21. I hope our partners do that professionally and personally. I always think it's a good discipline to have. You can't score if you don't have goals, type of thing. And so what we do is we're looking across our roadmap and what our business priorities are, and making sure that we're doing the things that are going to have the most impact for these MSPs. So we actually just had a 2-hour roadmap review yesterday that Cullen and I participated in. And we sat there as a collective group, cross-functional group, folks from all over the world on our side here at SolarWinds MSP, saying, hey, what is the most important thing? What can help these customers move the needle? What can help these partners move the needle? A lot of things that came to mind were making sure that we were pushing on our security roadmap, and making sure that we were developing our ecosystem framework that's open, that gives our partners choice, but also giving them a guided choice as it relates to security. So that was a big theme, and we're going to make sure that that's a priority. Mike has been a big proponent on making sure we're doing things in a way that MSPs can scale and grow in an efficient manner so they can continue to throw more profit to their bottom line. So we're going to make sure we're pushing along the automation part of the story. So I think the trap for us and for the partners is, by definition, you can't focus on too many things, because then you're not really focusing. So it's having that discipline and putting all the good ideas on the board, debating those good ideas, but then having the discipline to say, hey, we're going to move the needle on 3 to 5 things this year. And if you don't do that, you run the risk of really not making the progress that you want. So what I would implore everyone to do is take a step back and say, hey, what are the 10 good ideas, but what are those 3 to 5 that we really can focus on from an investment point of view, a mind share point of view, to move the needle on? Because what I found doing this for over 20 years, without that level of focus and prioritization, you're going to have mixed results. The focus really helps you as a partner push that agenda forward. So whether that be adding new customers, adding security services as an MSP, making sure that your retain rates, we know that MSPs, the difference between a good MSP and a bad MSP, or I should say good and a bad MSP, is whether or not their ability to retain the customers. So, okay, what is the priority? Why is it that we're able to retain or grow, or not be able to retain and grow? And I think that's the other thing, is you need to be truthful. with yourself and be able to have an honest assessment of yourself. Look in the mirror and say, hey, what are we strong at? What can we continue? What are we weak at? And where should we improve?
Mm. So two key themes there that you mentioned, John, and I want to pull Mike into this was, first, that focus on the right type of growth, profitable growth. Second, part of that journey, a major portion of that journey has got to be about driving down churn. So I want to start with the growth side of the conversation first. To the best of my knowledge, I've seen some benchmarks from SolarWinds MSP and from others. Hey, listen, the market is growing, no doubt. But within that doesn't mean the rising tide lifts all boats. As far as I can tell from the research I've seen, roughly 25% of MSPs are either break even or losing money because, I don't think they quite have a control of their dashboards in terms of understanding where their profits are and their losses are and then maximizing toward the profit side. Mike, you seeing it similarly or completely different? How do you see it?
Yeah, Joe, I'm seeing it exactly the same. The top 25 percentile are doing absolutely phenomenal, putting close to 20 points to the bottom line. The bottom 25 percentile are breaking even or losing money, as you say. And when we look at it, and we're really strong proponents of encouraging our customers to work on their business, not in their business. Because there's no silver bullet. There's no cure to that. It's just hard work. And when you do analytics on the top performers versus the bottom performers, it's a game of inches. They're getting a couple of points higher on what they sell. They're delivering their services with a cost a couple of points lower. It really comes down to them demonstrating value when they're selling and to driving efficiencies into their service delivery model with automation instead of labor, with tiered staffing models. We still sometimes see, the help desk with 4 weapons grade people on it. It doesn't need to be like that. Or making your resources focus on the right things that are going to drive efficiency and revenues into your business.
Yeah, one of the, if I can say benefits, but one of the benefits from this pandemic, we would hear from MSPs quite often about being commoditized or being pushed on pressure. And what this pandemic has really elevated for a lot of the MSPs that have taken the right approach is being that really trusted advisor. They're talking to their customers now. Before it was these quarterly business reviews, but during this transformation, this digital transformation, this work from home push, they're talking to their customers, their CEOs and the heads of these businesses weekly, if not daily. And they're actually able to demonstrate the business value and become that business critical partner and breaking this whole commodity kind of mindset. Now those small, medium enterprises that are leveraging MSPs, they're recognizing the strategic value that they can have and why an SME can go, an SME, never mind the SME, MSP, why these small, medium businesses can now go from just okay to being in one of those upper quartiles in their own industry by leveraging technology, by leveraging their MSPs and helping their MSPs push them to their upper quartile themselves. So I actually think it's been a benefit from that point of view. And our best MSPs are really able to demonstrate that strategic business partner for these small, medium enterprises.
I'm also, we've done a lot of research in the last year on churn and the industry itself. And the industry last year actually grew by 10%, which is a really healthy growth rate for the industry. But we saw a lot of what John mentioned where churn rates almost equaled growth rates in terms of the number of customers that they added was offset by the number of customers that they lost. The customers that they added were probably about 20% bigger in terms of revenue production. So I think to some extent what we're seeing is kind of a flushing of the low end of the market. But the one point that I would make is that if those customers are viable and MSPs can service them in a profitable way, if MSPs could address their churn issue, their revenues would go through the roof.
The other trend I've noticed in the market is during the early years, Mike, sometimes I would interview and I'd scratch my head and say, where are the big vendors? I know SolarWinds itself is massive now, but I'm also talking about the mainstream IT more of the horizontal companies, the Microsofts and the Ciscos of the world. Fast forward to current day, and I have noticed SolarWinds announcing relationships, deeper relationships with the Microsofts and the Ciscos. John, from your vantage point, what's changed?
Yeah, so you know, as part of this spin, we're increasing our investment in R&D, and what that's allowing us to do is really increase our investment on our ecosystem and our ecosystem framework. And what you're seeing, Joe, is really this is a result of just the crazy amount of proliferation as we think about our offices and the environments, right? I'm sitting here on my Windows Surface. I have my Apple device here because I think I'm cool. You have a bunch of different devices. You might, if you're at your office, you might have a Cisco Meraki wireless access point that you're running. In any case, whether it be your home or a small medium business, the world's become quite proliferated, right? And that just means all these hybrid bits, whether it be devices or different types of clouds, all these different SaaS applications, different operating systems. So now you layer in, that's just for one environment, one office. Now you layer in, if you're an MSP, you're trying to do this for 10, 20, 50, 450 different environments and all the different combinations. And it becomes a daunting task. What we found, we're lucky. Where our origins really is in that RM, that remote monitoring piece. It's really a platform that can be the operating system for these MSPs. So we've done, we were fortunate enough, Microsoft came to us. They saw us as one of the world leaders in the space, and they said, hey, can we integrate our Intune offering with you? Cisco, same thing. They came to us and said, hey, why? In this world where technology is intended to really make things simple for us in some ways, it actually makes it a lot more complex, right? All of a sudden, all these complexities, all these different systems, we're trying to take the complexity out. We're trying to simplify this for our partners. And Microsoft recognizes the same thing. Microsoft's saying, hey, how are we going to make this a lot more simple for our MSPs? Oh, we know. We have this Intune platform, but it's not multi-tenanted. Let's integrate with SolarWinds to give them that multi-tenanted view. Now a partner can go in and manage all these different environments. With the Cisco integration, the same thing. So really, I think there's a recognition that the technology and the advancement of technology is really meant to help simplify and make our lives easier if it's done right, if it's implemented right. If it's not, it gets a lot more complex. And we're in this really interesting spot where we're really just there focused on taking the complexity out for our partners, allowing them to do more with less and bringing all these bits in. So it's a quite powerful combination. We're really excited about the partnerships. You should expect to see more of those to come. And again, we're bringing all these great technologies together. We understand that it's a hybrid world. We understand that our partners want choice. We're not here to force anyone down a certain path. What we're here to do is allow them to enable all these choices and really take that complexity out of their lives and have them do more with less.
Got it. And then, Mike, I wanted to transition over to you on a similar question. The early years when you and I would speak, and then compare that to today, you have a situation today where Microsoft and Cisco and other big IT platform companies are reaching out to SolarWinds saying, hey, let's integrate. A decade ago, it was the opposite. It was the MSP software companies reaching out to the giants and sometimes not pointing any particular giants, but the giants wouldn't even reply. They weren't even aware of the market, so to speak. And one of the things I've noticed is a decade ago, some folks were predicting that the cloud would kill MSPs. I was never in that camp. I always thought cloud was a subset. Managed is the umbrella. Cloud is a subset underneath it as part of everything else you're going to manage. But fast forward to present day, Mike, it seems to me that cloud and mobile, those two things, and now with everyone remote, have created sort of the perfect storm of opportunity of the MSPs managing everything and the big vendors needing to work more closely with SolarWinds MSP partners. I know that was a bit of a ramble, but does that sound like the journey we've been on, or completely different?
I think it absolutely completely does. And actually even referencing back to John's point earlier, with complexity comes opportunity. And the more complex the environments, the better the revenue opportunity. When you were managing a small business server in the corner, it was pretty simple. Now when you're trying to manage applications in multiple clouds to users who are working from home, in the office, riding their bikes. I mean, the concept of being able to compute anywhere, anytime has become a reality. And that just makes the MSPs more important than they ever have been before.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, Joe, you know, it's quite frankly, it's an awakening, right? All this technology has really flattened the competitive landscape. And it's an awakening of some of these larger giants that they understand the power of the small, medium enterprise. You know, more than half of employees in the US are employed by a small, medium enterprise. And who is best to service a small, medium enterprise? It's the MSPs. And so there's a huge opportunity for our MSPs. And the most efficient way for all these big technology vendors to gain access through to these small, medium enterprises is via this wonderful channel that is the MSP. And so it's this awakening where something was really only custom built for, you know, a Fortune 500 type of company. With the way that the technology has basically flattened the landscape, that same technology not only is affordable for the small, medium enterprise, but now that small, medium enterprise, it's a must-have for compliance purposes, for security purposes, for automation, productivity purposes. If these small, medium enterprises do not start and get on their digital transformation, they will be left behind. Right. Whether it be a florist or a dentist or an investment banker, if they're not part of the digital transformation, they will be out of business, not because they're a bad florist, not because they're a bad dentist, not because they're a bad bank or a bad banker, but because they've not stayed up and leveraged technology in the right way. And so it's this awakening that we're seeing, and it's quite frankly, it has pivoted the game a little bit, where we're seeing a lot of these vendors coming to us saying, hey, how do we gain access? How can we partner? How can we make your partners' lives a lot easier?
Makes sense. Makes sense. Final question for you guys. If I fast forward and sort of look ahead, and it's already happening, I think the end game for all the MSPs here is customer experience. Really delivering a great customer experience to A, maximize your profits, B, make that end customer as successful as they can be, and then C, driving down your churn, to both of your points. Is customer experience the end game here? And any tips for the MSPs to maximize that customer experience?
I'll ask Mike to answer that one, but just as a quick commercial for Mike. Mike's been in this space for over 20 years, Joe, and customer experience and customer success has been something that's been near and dear to his heart, keeps him driving us and make sure that we're focused, back to your previous point. So he's definitely the perfect person to answer that one.
Yeah, Joe, I've spent the last year and a half immersed in customer success, and I believe it's so important that it's actually a sales model. And that sounds funny, but we've gone through sort of 3 generations since 2000. The first one would be, you know, hardcore sales, and then we went to digital marketing. And I think we're entering the era of customer success where advocacy becomes the best sales vehicle. That, you know, when people turn to their people that do this similar businesses within work groups or within geographies and ask, hey, who looks after your IT? That's the future of this business. And I think the MSPs that, you know, get involved with customer success, invest as heavily in retaining a customer as they do signing one. They'll spend as much as $23,000 to sign a customer, but nowhere near that kind of money to retain one. I think if their efforts in customer success was directed toward the retention, I think those businesses could be 25, 30% operating income businesses.
Yeah, I'd like the partners to think about customer success in a real fundamental kind of simple way. And that is, think of it, because it's a new trend, Joe. It's like this, it's a little bit of a buzzword. At its root, it's really a web of promises. It's a web of promises that you have with your employees, and whether it be your technicians or your sales teams at an MSP. It's the web of promises that you have with your vendors and partners like SolarWinds and others. And it's that promise that you have with your customers. And the key thing there on customer success that's at the really at the root of it all is transparency and communicating what those promises are. And if you do that, what I will convey to my partners is your churn will go down. If you make sure that you're honest about that web of promises, both to your employee base, to your ecosystem, and to your customers, and be very explicit as to what that promise is and honor that promise, you will be a better, healthier business for sure.
Great advice. Well, gentlemen, I've asked a lot of questions here, but I wanted to mention to our viewers, if you have questions, by all means, post them in the comment area, reach out to us. We are more than happy to make sure that either John or Mike get back to you. In the meantime, John, Mike, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it.
Cheers. And for the record, I've had more wine than you today, Joe. So.